All right, welcome into Sportsbet Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, weekend preview edition. Big game breakdown. We got two monster matchups in the NBA. Game 6, Western Conference, Eastern Conference Finals. We'll get to that. Dodgers and the Mets deep dive. Sports betting popularity and the handle continues to go up, up, and up. We'll give you some numbers on that. We try to finish out the week 4-1 with the play of the day. Oh, we love what we do. We love this show. We love to bet. We love to talk about sports betting. Case in point last night. How about that epic final minute, Teddy? Point spread, hijinks, the total craziness, how that played out with the point spread, with the Warriors and the Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about why the leagues love sports bettors, they won't say they do, but why they really do, look no further than the final minute of last night's game. Look, everyone knew the Warriors were going to win. You know, even when Oklahoma State had the two back-to-back buckets and the steal and all that, the Warriors were going to win that game. But the point spread outcome was in doubt right through the final minute. Talk about drama. You have Golden State's up 11. Then Durant hits the dunk to cut it to 9 with 56 seconds left. If you have a Golden State ticket, you're like, oh, Oklahoma City's going to foul already. Great. Then they foul. Thompson hits 2 free throws. It leads back to 11 with 55 seconds left. Then Barnes fouls Durant on the wild 3. If you have OKC, you're like, yes. If you have Golden State, you're like, what? Yes. KD sinks all 3. Then Curry turns it over. Choke job. Westbrook hits the bucket, and he gets fouled. The lead's down to 6, but Westbrook misses the free throw. But he gets the offensive rebound, and then Durant gets a good look, but he misses from 3. Now there's 33 seconds left. Curry hits 2 free throws. The lead's back to 8. Remember, the point spread here is 7.5, so we're going back and forth across the number. Westbrook misses a 3. Then Green hits the 2 free throws. The lead's back to 10. There's 15 seconds left. Golden State backers start to breathe. No. Then Morrow hits the impossible 3. Lucky for Golden State, it wasn't a 4-point play.
I thought he was fouled.
Yeah, he totally was fouled on that play. Leads back down to 7. Thompson hits 2 free throws. Leads back up to 9. Back and forth across the number. And then who gets the shot? Pauly, you texted me. It was so...
Break. For Christ's sake, I got 7.5 in my pocket. I got Nazir Muhammad from the parking lot. What's he doing shooting a 3?
Yeah, but then they get the offensive rebound, and Waiters gets a good look. Clank.
Yeah.
Warriors win by 9. Game closes 7.5, but that is the epitome of point spread drama. Doesn't matter what side you had. You're glued to the TV. Doesn't matter if you had the over or the under. You're glued to the TV. That's why the networks love sports bettors. Talk about the total, Pauly, because I just went through the side. The total might have been even worse.
219.5. It was on 210 with a minute left, and the Warriors are up 10. So you have the possibility that they're just going to dribble it out. And then it was live betting on the total was in the 211 to 214 range for the entire fourth quarter until that final minute. They come out and they have a 73-point fourth quarter, and then the end game scramble, which we always talk about. Well, you got nothing going on in the Cleveland series in the fourth quarter. These guys couldn't miss in the fouling and 73 points in the fourth quarter. Madness.
21 points in the final minute.
Oh, God.
In the final minute, 21 points. So obviously, there was finally a competitive final minute of a playoff game. And this kind of offensive explosion can happen in the final minute of a playoff game because teams will foul right to the end and they'll try to get into it right to the end. But you don't see that many 21-point final minutes. Brutal beat, tough beat if you had OKC, tough beat if you had the under.
Good point about happening in the final minute. Remember, yesterday we talked about on the show there was 15 points combined in the final 5:30 of the Cleveland-Toronto game. Jesus. All right, bad bets. The markets made another mistake against Miami. Stanton was declared out. And it went up, and Smiley was favored over Fernandez. Come on.
Yeah, Smiley's kid should get him a T-shirt for Father's Day. I was once favored over Jose Fernandez. And, of course, the money came against Miami after Giancarlo Stanton was declared out. No-brainer. And not a sweat if you had the Marlins. Not a good performance from Smiley or Tampa.
The Rockies were all over Buchholz. He was $1.60. The Red Sox are 26-11 without him on the hill, 3-7 with him pitching. This is the third time he's lost at $1.50 or higher, Teddy.
Yeah, and 0 wins, by the way, at $1.50 or higher. Look, Buchholz is now 2-5 with a 6.35 ERA, and this is something we've been telling you right here on Sportsbet for more than a month. Buchholz doesn't have it. He's allowed 4 runs or more in 8 out of 10 starts this year, Pauly. And again, minus 160. I understand that Colorado's not a sexy team in the betting markets, but they sure were a right side last night. If you were betting Boston, you had the wrong side.
Here's where you throw your hands up again. The Braves were favored at home. Again. Yeah. You know what happened. 2-20 now at home.
Yeah. Hey, betting markets, here's a hint. It's not just about starting pitching, yo. I understand. Atlanta, they love the starters. And Whistler's good. Yeah, I understand. There's things to like about Whistler. But the Braves, even when they have a starting pitching edge, they don't seem to have an edge in any other category. Not in terms of lineups, not in terms of bullpens, not in terms of home field edge. A team that is 2-20 at home has no business being chalk. They certainly weren't on Thursday.
The breaking news yesterday, Art Briles out as head coach at Baylor. Ken Starr somehow survives. He gets demoted as president. But here's a guy who aggressively went after Bill Clinton, and now he had women telling him they were raped, and he said, my hands are tied. There's nothing I could do about it. And once that report came out and they hired that law firm in Philadelphia to do their homework and go back and look at this, it was all over for Briles, as there was actually, in one instance, retaliation with a woman who reported being assaulted by a football player. What a sad day for Baylor.
Yeah, and it really is. And when you look at some of the tweets and some of the quotes, not just from the guys that are in the program now. Senior safety, Tayon Sells, best coach in America, ... They will never understand. Huge loss for the guys that are on the team. Huge loss for the recruits. Cameron Martin, a 4-star signee at running back, says, well, I'm going to weigh my options now. Quote, he was one of the realest coaches I've ever met. I love Coach Briles to death, and my loyalty is to Baylor. I'm just going to pray on it. And we'll go from there. Who's the biggest benefit factor from all of this stuff? Pauly? I got to think it's Charlie Strong and the Texas Longhorns.
Yep.
When you look at how the Baylor program has risen over the last decade, and at the same time, while Baylor's doing this, Texas has been doing that. You know why? Because Baylor, the kids that Texas was getting, they're going to Baylor now. Well, now they're probably going to go back to Texas again. Advantage Longhorns. Bad news, both short-term and long-term for the Baylor program. I'm not sure they're going to be able to survive at this level. Art Briles, on the other hand, I'm convinced, Pauly, someone's going to hire him. Someone's going to hire him quickly. He will not be out of work long.
Oh, come on. Come on. Quickly.
What, no one's going to hire him?
Oh, come on. No, it's going to take a while after this. That report is damning. This is brutal. Maybe those SEC people will. But this is some brutal stuff in that report. You're meeting with sexual assault victims and you're not passing that along and you're covering it all up? I don't know, man. I think you're wrong on that.
Interesting. We'll see. The bottom line is Briles has won football games, and administrators have a lot of pressure to sign head coaches and hire head coaches who can actually win football games. Art Briles can do that regardless of the baggage that's now in his closet.
Yep. Big game breakdown coming up next. We'll start with Game 6 tonight. Can the Cavs close out the Raptors? That's coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Find the best tennis odds for each Grand Slam event. Research before you bet on SportsbookReview.com.
All right, time for big game breakdown. Huge Game 6 tonight. Cavs on the road to take on the Raptors. Cavs 6.5, 196 the total. The Raptors have been outscored by 67 points in the series so far. They're still alive. Or are they? I mean, you look at this, it could be a minus that they know even if they win, they go back to Cleveland for a Game 7 where the Cavs have killed them in 4 meetings this season, 3 in the playoffs and 1 in the regular season, Teddy.
Well, I mean, you look at the plus minus, the minus, they're getting manhandled the way they've been manhandled in all 3 games in Cleveland in this series, as well as the 1 regular season meeting. I believe they lost by 22 in that contest. It can wreck a team's confidence, no question, and Toronto has had issues in that regard already this postseason. Of course, the plus is that just 1 win gets them to Game 7. They can get outscored by 66 points over 6 games. They've been outscored by 67 so far and still be alive. All they got to do is win by 1, and they get a Game 7 and get to go back to Cleveland. Of course, their energy has been so good on this home court, certainly in this series. Might that be enough, Pauly, to give them just 1 more jolt?
Yeah, all they got to, who cares about you being outscored? You just come through with a 1-point win. It goes back to Game 7. This is back to Cleveland. Cleveland has never led by more than 3 points in 96 minutes in Toronto. But here's a staggering number. LeBron has won at least one road game in 25 consecutive playoff series. Now, did Cleveland figure out something on defense on Wednesday? You look at this graphic. Game 4, Lowry and DeRozan, 84 minutes, 67 points, plus 16. Game 5, Lowry and DeRozan, 60 minutes, 27 points, minus 57. I guess one positive in the blowout, Valanciunas got in blowout in mop-up duty when it was a blowout. He saw 18 minutes and actually made some shots in that one.
Yeah, but it's worth noting he did not grab a single rebound in that 18 minutes of play. But, I mean, for me, this is one where if you're watching, you definitely should have some opportunities when it comes to in-game wagering because there's an early tell in this game. If the Cleveland offense attacks the basket, the Cavs are going to be a bet on. And if the Cleveland offense is settling for 3 points, for 3-point jumpers, then they're going to be a bet against. And I mean, just look at the numbers in the series so far. You know, the 3-point shots at home, 51 in 3 games. On the road, 82 in 2 games. You know, so they're shooting less than a third of them at home, more than half on the road. So far in this series, that doesn't necessarily go on forever. I would expect the Cavs to be more aggressive taking the ball to the basket and less willing to settle for those trifectas. But if you see it early where Cleveland's settling for threes, might be an opportunity to get some Toronto money in your pocket betting in game.
What a weird series. I think it was 2008 when Boston played Atlanta. It was 1-8. The Celtics 1-7, and they blew them out in every home game, but they couldn't win in Atlanta. It's like, come on, you're beating this team by 30 at every home game. Win a game on the road. What's wrong with you guys?
Well, it's only 2 games they lost, you know. And honestly, I mean, the first game they lost, you're talking about a team that had won the first 10 in the playoffs, and they were a little bit fat, and they were a little bit happy, and they didn't play well. And then the second game they lost, I think they were surprised that Toronto punched them in the mouth the way they did. If you read the post-game comments after Game 3 for Cleveland, they were a little bit shell-shocked. They were surprised at how bad it was. They didn't bring their A-game, Game 4. I'm not convinced that's going to happen here in a closeout opportunity.
Okay, live odds, remember, sportsbookreview.com. I'm looking forward to this one tonight. The Dodgers on the road to take on the Mets. DeGrom against Urias. Mets $1.25, 7 the total. And this could be Fernando Mania all over again. Urias doesn't turn 20 until August 12th. At AAA this season, 4-1 with a 1.10 ERA, 44 strikeouts for his 24 hits allowed over 41 innings pitched. But Teddy, we've ripped Harvey and talked about how bad he's been. They got to get DeGrom going too.
Yeah, there's certainly some issues, but I do want to talk about Urias for a minute because here's a guy that doesn't turn 20 until August. He was signed as a free agent out of Mexico back in 2013, and the Mets, they're not going to have a lot of scouting in terms of scouting for this young lefty. It's not like he's been around the league a whole bunch of times, and a lot of times the young lefties with nasty stuff, their first trip around the baseball world tends to be a profitable one for their supporters, hence the short chalk price here for the Mets. But, DeGrom here in 2016, he's not the same DeGrom in 2015. And the numbers, again, the basic numbers aren't going to freak you out. It was 14-8 last year, 2.54, 3-1 this year with a 3.07. No big deal. Then you start to look at some of the advanced metrics numbers. All right, the strikeout rate is way down from last year. The walk rate is up. The velocity is down. A couple of MPH. That's a concern. Then it becomes an even bigger concern because you start to look at who DeGrom has faced so far this season. Look at the OPS rank. Let's see. You had the Phillies at 28. You had Atlanta at 30. San Fran at 13. San Diego at 29. The Dodgers at 24. The Rockies at 7. Milwaukee at 20. So more than half of his starts, in fact, 5 of his 7 starts have come against teams ranked 20th or worse in OPS. He's been, feasting on the week as he faces some stronger lineup. There are definitely concerns here for Mr. DeGrom.
All right, Saturday night, can't wait. 6 o'clock Pacific, Game 6. Warriors and OKC. OKC at home, lane 2. 221 the total. And the Warriors took care of business to force the Game 6. Curry played well. How about Bogut and Spates, the big guys? They were terrific in this one. But did you think it was too much a hero ball with Westbrook and Durant, Teddy?
Well, we got to start with the point spread because here's the Thunder as chalk in this series. We've been saying, when's OKC going to be chalk? When's OKC going to be chalk? And a couple times the markets have moved to Oklahoma City. In fact, the very first books to open this number also had Golden State as a favorite. The markets moved to the Thunder right off the bat. And OKC not only has to win, they have to win by 3 points or more, at least off the opening number, in order to cover this number. Now, to say they played, hero ball, I don't know if they played hero ball. Durant and Westbrook are their guys, and the two of them scored 71 points. Now, between them, they shot only 39%. They had nearly as many turnovers as assists, but boy, they brought it on the defensive end, that duo. They hit shots, tough contested shots in the fourth quarter, and you certainly liked the mentality of OKC, even though Durant and Westbrook took 60 shots. Everyone else on the team, only 32, Paul.
Yep. Well, here we go now. Pressure. All the pressure's on OKC. And I'll tell you what, how big is game one now? That was the only game in the series where the road team shot more free throws than the home team. So, Donovan can talk about what happened last night, but Golden State got to the line 30. They were 31 of 34 from the line. I would not expect that to happen on Saturday night. But again, what I said at the outset, Bogut was tremendous. I think what Spates had 14 points in 9 minutes, something like that. Hello, Harrison Barnes, join us. It's Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Are you going to show up at all? And Green had a horrible first half before he played a good job defensively and also grabbed some rebounds and had some putbacks for the Warriors. So, again, Game 1's huge. You know the record. The road team always struggles in Game 7 on the road if it comes down to Monday night, Memorial Day. So, again, all the pressure on OKC. They got to take care of business Saturday.
Exactly. And we talked about this going into Game 5. It's like, all right, the Thunder cannot exhale because all of a sudden you lose Game 5, and now it's as pressure-packed as it gets. That being said, Oklahoma City has been in these spots before. They've done well in these spots before. Think only back to their previous series against the Spurs when they took care of business when it mattered most.
Yep, again, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. We look to finish out the week 4-1 with the play of the day. That's coming up next in the deep dive. People can't get enough of sports betting. The handle continues to go up. We'll discuss that next on SportsBit. Betting and insight today.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
All right, time for the deep dive. The handle continues to go up, 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 and up with sports betting. Sports betting gets bigger and bigger. Still no mainstream acceptance. There are 4 networks for the stock market. 3 times as many sports bettors out there, and they can't get any real TV coverage. That's what we're here for, Teddy. And some staggering numbers released by the Nevada Gaming Control Board.
Yeah, and again, when it comes to betting in the U.S., we don't have good numbers. We just don't. The guesstimate is that for every $1 bet legally within the state of Nevada, there is $100 bet either illegally or gray area in the other 49 states. But that's a guesstimate. Nobody knows for sure. When you talk about the offshore guys, the offshore guys that we talk to tell me their figures are growing just as fast as the numbers in Nevada are growing,
wow.
Which is, of course, why all of you need to be watching SportsBet every day. But the truth of it is that we don't have any aggregate numbers for the offshore industry. So all we have are the Nevada numbers. So the Nevada numbers are telling a very clear story. April, $292 million in sports bets in handle in Nevada. That's up nearly $40 million year over year. They took in about $250 million last April. Handle's up over $100 million in a 3-year period. When you go back to 2013, we're talking about $190 million legally bet here in the state of Nevada. And of course, the sports books, well, they made money off all that handle here in the state of Nevada. $13.5 million in revenue, even though that they had to pay out some old football tickets that are still being cashed in. The month of April was good for the sports books, both in NBA and MLB and NHL. Or that's not both. That's all 3 in action. Of course, the David Payne Purdom tweet. David, is the ESPN gaming writer. Mm-hmm. He said, with the $13.5 million win in April, Nevada sportsbooks have now come out ahead in 33 consecutive months.
The same week, we had Adam Silver talk about legalize it, Mark Cuban as well. I know we've come a long way. That we got ESPN and Fox Sports tweeting out the betting lines and the totals. What would you make of? How far do you think we are with what Cuban and Silver talked about with getting it legalized?
You know, the casinos are on our side. When you look at the games that are popular among younger casino goers, you know, the millennials, they're not playing slots. Mm-hmm. They're not playing craps and blackjack the way that our generation did, and certainly the generation older than us did. They like betting sports and playing poker. Those are the two most popular games for the younger generation. So when you talk about what's going to happen, well, what happens to younger people? Gradually they get older. You know, what's happening? Gradually we've been moving in this direction, Paul. To say how long it's going to be before it happens on a national level, I can't say. You can't say. None of us can say.
Yeah.
But to say that the ball continues to roll in that direction means it's going to happen someday, and maybe sooner than we think.
Well,
obviously, as a nation, we need more and more revenue sources, and in theory, they're looking at sports betting as, oh, this is something we can tax. The reality is that there's not a lot of money available for taxing sports betting. When we talk about 11 to 10, the margins are pretty slim, both for the bettors and for the books.
A good start would be if New Jersey could win that court case. That'd be
It'd be a
huge.
huge start. It'd be the end of the prohibition as we know it if New Jersey wins that court case.
Yep.
But from all indications, that's, it's a long shot.
Any more on this, or you want to go to play of the day?
Oh, no, there's a ton more on that. I mean,
Okay.
look, we talked about what happened in April. Let's talk about March. You know, handle was up $50 million year over year in March. February and January, record months for handle as well. And all of that came after a banner 2015 with $4.2 billion in handle legally bet in Nevada. These numbers are just going through the roof, Pauly, compared to where they've been. And again, this is the legalized, regulated stuff. We don't have the good numbers on what's not being bet legally, but the trend line is very clear. Sports betting becoming more and more popular, getting more and more handle. And you talked about it in the opener. What do you have? You have CNBC, you have Bloomberg, you have Fox Business, You have CNN Money. What's for sports bettors? Nothing.
Yep.
This SportsBit is for sports bettors.
That's it.
That's what we got, folks. We'll do our best to pass along accurate information every single day, including Memorial Day, by the way. No break over here, Memorial Day weekend. Full show on Monday, full show on Tuesday. You can count on it. You can count on us here at SportsBit.
You know it. Hopefully we got a Game 7 to talk about. A recap and preview, rather. All right, here we go. Let's close out the week 4-1 winner with the Nationals yesterday. Where are we going, Teddy?
Let's go to the New York Yankees. What have we been talking about all week? We've been talking about how Tampa is a mess right now. Archer, real problem area for the Rays. A guy with great stuff, but a guy who has not performed well of late. And, of course, he's had real problems against Jacoby Ellsbury. Ellsbury, 16 of 24 with 4 walks against Archer. It's nice when your leadoff man can set the tempo that way. Tanaka's not sexy, but he's a bet-on pitcher here. In a true pick'em game, let's take number 919, the New York Yankees, minus 105. That's the play of the day. And what do we got? We're going for 4-1 this week, Pauly.
You got it.
8 of the last 11 weeks, we've had delivered winning results. Not perfect, but it's consistent. That's what we look for.
All right, good week of shows. Fun week, a lot to get to. Next week, we start NFL team previews. NFL right around the corner. So look for that in the deep dive as we get into that next week. And we'll preview, obviously, a big preview with the NBA Finals. We'll talk to you. Have a good weekend. We'll see you here Monday on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.